Hi everyone, I'm Alex Rosenfeld, founder of Freshwater Investments, and this is Coffee with a T-Bird podcast. I sit down with fellow T-Birds who are making an impact in business, leadership, and entrepreneurship. Each episode features conversations that explore the pivotal moments, personal motivations, and lessons learned on their journeys. Whether you're a student, alum, or someone passionate about business and personal growth, you'll walk away with fresh ideas. This is a bit more than a podcast. It's a platform for connections, storytelling, and celebrating the global spirit of Thunderbird. This podcast is sponsored by Freshwater Investments. At Freshwater, we make it simple for you to invest in large apartment communities across the United States so you can earn passive income, grow your capital, and benefit from real estate tax breaks without owning or managing property yourself. Aquiles, good morning. How are you?
Great, Alex. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Welcome to the show. Where do I find you today?
Today I am in Washington, D.C., in the United States.
Excellent. Okay. I would like to start our conversation by a question about a change you made some time ago, a few years ago in your career when you were working as a marketing guru at Pepsi in Latin America, and then you switching to investment job at Koch Industries. Can you take us to that time and tell us why did you make that decision, why it happened?
That's a very good question. I should say that when I did that, I had an afro. Now I have no hair. So that gives you an idea how long ago that was. Well, I was working for PepsiCo at that time, and in the marketing area, I was in charge of a different a cluster of countries, and my career started there in marketing. But I wanted a little change in my career. I wanted to see the other side, the investment side, and learned from that experience, because very deep inside, I knew I was an entrepreneur and I wanted to start my own businesses and do my own things. So I was pretty comfortable in the marketing sphere, but I thought that I needed some more experience in finance and project development and project control and all of that. So an opportunity came up, and it happened to be a huge opportunity. I was offered the position of the director of investments for Latin America for the company Koch Industries. As you know, Koch Industries in this case is spelled K-O-C-H.
That's right.
Koch brothers, they're in the area of energy, and they were looking to expand operations in Latin America. So they decided to enter into a negotiation with the Venezuelan government to build a $1 billion plant. So my first experience with investment financing had to do with a project that big. So we managed to raise $810 million at that time, and we got a reward for the best project financing for developing countries at that time. So it was interesting. Yes.
That's great.
And challenging.
Great. Of course. Let me take you back to your childhood. Can you tell us where did you grow up? How was the childhood like? And maybe something about your family and then your parents?
Yeah, sure. I grew up in Caracas, Venezuela. Don't cry, please. Very poor, extremely poor. And I was an orphan on my dad's side, so it was just my mother. And in my house, there was no food every day, but every day we had this direction from my mom that we had to study, we had to go to school, and that was a ticket to evolve socially and economically. So I took that to heart. All of us, my brothers and I, were three. And so we did that. And also the country at that time offered opportunities for people like myself that more or less, I don't want to say that I excelled in schooling, but I didn't do too badly. And I was able to get a scholarship to go abroad to study. And I did that after finishing my engineering degree in Venezuela. So I was lucky enough to get a scholarship to come to the U.S. to do a master's degree. So I did that, and First, it was a great program. They sent me to an English intensive course in Kansas, in Atchison, Kansas. It was a very small town in Kansas, and there is a college there called Benedictine College. It's a college, and I was there for about 9 months. And after that, that helped me kind of prepare to take all the the GMAT and the TOEFL and all of that, those tests, and applied to graduate school. So I was lucky enough to get an acceptance at Colorado State University, and I went there to get my master's degree, and I got a master's degree in information systems. That was, the year was 1985. I even had more hair than when I, when I switched careers to investment. So I was there, I got my master's degree at Colorado State University. And after 2.5 years, I returned to Venezuela. Then I started working there for Procter Gamble. Great company to start. You know, it's a great school. You learn a lot. And I was there for about 4 years. And then I applied for another scholarship with the government. The Venezuelan government was very keen on providing opportunities to young people to study abroad. And I was lucky enough to get a second scholarship. And that was the one that took me to Thunderbird. Because then I wanted to go and get involved in international business. And as you know, Thunderbird there's no better place than Thunderbird for that.
Yeah. And let me ask you for a second. I'm very curious about what was Venezuela like during that time?
Well, we had
seems
problems.
like you were providing great opportunities for good students.
Well,
but what else was going on in the country?
As you know, Venezuela is an oil-rich country. And in the 70s, the government started a scholarship program that would send students all over the world, and the best schools possible to study both in undergrad, master's, PhDs, and postgraduate. It didn't really matter. And the only commitment that the government was asking, it wasn't that to work for the government or anything. No, it was just come back and help, use that knowledge and so we can develop the country. So that started in the 70s and during the oil crisis. And that was very good for an oil-producing country like Venezuela. And that carried on for years. 1984, when I got my first scholarship, the program was still in place. And then in 1990, when I got to my second scholarship, it was also in place. It is not now. So it was very important for the different governments to maintain that program because that produced, a lot of changes socially within the country. A lot of people were trained in the best schools, and we brought that knowledge and that experience, and we permeated that to locally.
Yeah. Do you remember that time when you came to US first time? What was your experience like? Do you have any cultural shock?
I knew 2 words in English. I knew 2 words: no and yes. So it was very, very different. Of course, very different. You feel, I was 22, and at that age, you feel like you know it all. And I just had completed my 5-year bachelor's degree in civil engineering, and I didn't do too badly, so I thought I was extremely smart. So then you go to a place where you don't understand the language, you don't understand the culture, you don't understand the social signals that you have to be aware of. That was a struggle for me.
Did you think for a moment that it was a wrong decision to go to US?
No. I was determined to do it. Once I made that decision, I wasn't going to back out. But it was difficult. For instance, I always remember this. I was preparing for the GMAT test. And if you recall, there are reading parts, reading and comprehension. And there was this piece that we had to read and then answer questions about it. And there was some guy called William in the text. And then in the questions, they were asking about the bill. And then I would go back to the text. Well, I don't see any bill here. Who's Bill? Why are they asking about Bill when Bill is not in the text? So that shows you the bias. They assume that everybody who's reading that would know that the William is Bill and Richard is Dick. I had to face that, and it was challenging. After a while, of course, you get used to it, but at time, it would, of course, affects everything. You get frustrated. At least I did. And I started to question my intelligence. It confirmed that I wasn't as intelligent as I thought I was.
Okay. So let's talk about Thunderbird. How did you decide to go there? You said that you got a scholarship, but why Thunderbird?
Well, there were 2 reasons. One, I had a scholarship, several reasons. Number one, I had a scholarship. Number two, Thunderbird was the number one international business school in the world. Thunderbird had, nowadays, almost all the top business schools have some kind of international business area. But back then, it was a niche that Thunderbird had been exploiting for 50 years or so. So the reputation spoke by itself. And third, at that time, Thunderbird gave a free ride to one student per year. And I was lucky enough to get it. So, and then, it was wonderful. It was wonderful. And back then, the campus was in Glendale, Thunderbird wasn't part of ASU as it is today.
Yeah, that's where I went as well. Tell me about your years at Thunderbird. What was your favorite memories? What did you enjoy while on campus?
Well, while on campus, I tried to drink all beers that were at the pub. Remember that if you drank all of them, you got your name on the wall. I wasn't able to do that, but I tried. Well, my memories is just the people. I don't think I can tell you what my favorite subject was, but I can tell you that people was the best part of Thunderbird. Very like-minded individuals from many different parts of the world. I had friends from Africa, I had friends from Europe, friends from the U.S., from Asia, from all over. So that was the best part, in my opinion. It was excellent.
Got it.
And it made a big difference in my career. Thunderbird made a big, huge difference. I was lucky enough to get an offer from PepsiCo when I hadn't even completed my first semester at Thunderbird.
That was my next question. How did you find your first job from after Thunderbird?
PepsiCo went to Thunderbird to recruit, and they interviewed a bunch of people, including me, and then I got an invitation to go to Mexico for additional interviews. I went, then I came back to Thunderbird. They extended an offer, and they said, if you want it, it'll be waiting for you when you graduate. Of course, I took it.
Excellent. So, can you take me through your illustrious career? You've done so many amazing things over the last 30 years.
Well, after Thunderbird, I worked for PepsiCo in marketing, and it was in Mexico. And then I went to Ecuador, and I was in different functions and managing different areas, but mainly marketing driven. Then when I started working for Koch as director of Latin American investments, that exposed me to investing and project financing. And I got very interested in that. In the back of my mind, there was always the idea of having my own business. Always wanted to do that. And then there was a big change politically in Venezuela in 1998. And Koch Industries decided to slow down the efforts to grow in Latin America. So I decided to look for different opportunities. And then I went to work for Chupa Chups, the Spanish company. And I was in charge of South America to develop the brand and all of that there. So in a way, I came back to marketing and sales to develop that company in South America. From there, then I got into telecommunications with a telco company. And that was when telco was exploding. So I was the vice president of marketing and sales for TIM, is Telecom Italia Mobile. So I was in telecommunications. After that, I decided that there was an opportunity for me to get involved in a business. So I left TIM to create the first television network in Venezuela. Before that time, there were local TV stations, but they were not connected. So we acquired and launched a new concept for a television network called Telecaribe. And then I was the executive vice president for that. So we pushed that and we created the network, and it was a lot of fun. That was great. And then I decided to fly solo. In this position, I was with somebody else, but I decided to fly solo. And also that had to do with a lot of issues within the country. Then I initiated a different and conceptualized and developed and launched different applications. I got into, it was a hot topic at the time. So I developed at least three or four apps, one in financing, And I developed also one that's called Eco Wash. That's before Uber, but it was Uber for car wash. If you think about it, you have to take your car to a car wash. So this was just like Uber. Somebody would come to wherever you are, your office, your home, and they would wash your car there. But the key ingredient was that we didn't use water. We used a product that was biodegradable. It would encapsulate the dust and wax the car at the same time. So we wouldn't leave a water print wherever we did that.
Mm-hmm.
I sold that business. It was okay. And then I also launched a different one called Cenntrum, which is the objective is to reduce the number of car accidents created by texting and driving. Texting and driving has been approached worldwide two ways. Education, trying to inform people of the risks of texting and driving, and legislature, which by nature is punitive. You get some kind of penalty if you text and drive. And in the world, there are more than 6 billion smartphones, and there are 2.1 billion cars worldwide. So the market is there. People look at their phones at every 3.5 minutes. They spend over 6 hours per day on their phones. So I decided that maybe there was an opportunity to provide an additional solution to this problem, and it was to reward drivers for not texting and driving. So on one hand, people were being educated. On the other hand, you get penalized if they get you, but also I developed this app so you be rewarded. And it was simple. You start driving and you don't use your phone. You earn some points, and those points then you exchange for rewards that are given by participating companies. So everybody wins. The participating company associates the brand with a social cause as important as this one. Of course, the driver doesn't get in trouble and gets a reward. So that's good. Society as a whole wins, fewer accidents. Texting and driving is responsible for about 23% of fatal car accidents in the world. About that.
Oh, that's a big number.
And of course, the company also made money by charging the participating companies a fee for being on that. And nowadays,
Before we go into nowadays, let me ask a few follow-up questions on your career. Can you talk a little bit about your marketing experience in Latin America, and how is it different from marketing and selling products in Europe or US? I'm very curious to know that.
That's a very good question. We would have to divide that in two different eras, if you will. Before streaming and before social networking, that's one era. And another is after that. That's true everywhere. So the difference in Latin America was that there were very few TV channels or radio networks in each country. So I managed different countries. And they had basically, they determined the price of their spots. And in almost all countries in November, they would have a pre-sale season. And you had to commit X amount of dollars to get certain benefits. If not, it was almost impossible for any brand. It didn't matter how big it was, to have access to different shows or advertising. That's number one. Number two, so that the only players that could really advertise were huge companies such as Procter Gamble, PepsiCo. So those and telco companies, they're the only ones who could really advertise on TV. And so besides that, it was very much the same. Especially if you talk about it and think about global companies like Procter Gamble and PepsiCo, they don't change the strategy for the country. Basically, what you do at the local level is tweak it to adapt it. But you have a strategic plan that has been determined for you. That was my role within those companies, to determine those rules, understanding what the trends were and all of that, and also to have the benefits of scale of the company. So local brands, it was very difficult for them to compete. After social networking and streaming, that would change the game. Now, when you look at the local TV stations and local radio stations, they themselves are struggling. When you would pay, $15,000 for a 30-second spot, today you could get it maybe for $200. So big change.
Quite a difference.
And also the habits, the consumption habits of television and radio has changed a lot. So that would be the biggest change. Now you have to have a very strong digital presence in every platform. And the approach has to be more holistic. You have to be everywhere.
Thank you. And another question. So you went from corporate officer, very successful, to running your own business. Can you talk about challenges of becoming an entrepreneur, and how did you solve them along the way?
Well, when you work for a large company, let's say PepsiCo, and I love this example I'm going to give you, and your printer doesn't work for some reason. You want to print something and it doesn't work. You pick up the phone and you call General Services and say, listen, my printer is not working. And magically, it is solved. Then you get a new printer or somebody fixes it. Well, when you start your own business, and when you are very conscious about expenses and when you're using your own money, you don't do that. Then when the printer is not working, you try to solve it yourself. So that's one big change. And my experience is that you learn more from small business than you do from a big company. In a big company, you have a safety net, which is the company itself. And the decision, it doesn't matter how high you are in the organization, it's never only your decision. There's so many people involved in a particular decision. When you start your own business, well, the decisions are yours. And the successes and the failures are yours. And you own them. You have to own them. So that's what I love.
Do you remember a few decisions that you made and they ended up being the right decisions for the success of your business?
Well, yes, I can say a few, but I think it's better to talk about the failures. I'll give you one
Let's
example.
talk about failures as well.
One of the things I did was I decided to open a restaurant because I saw an opportunity for a restaurant in Caracas. Well, and I created the concept, and I wanted to be a cafe and very upscale coffee shop, very nice. And I put a lot of my own money into it and rented the space, remodeled the space, bought everything from my spoon to a lamp. And we opened on February 19th, 2020.
Wrong timing.
March 13, the pandemic hit.
Yeah, everything's closing.
The business was closed for 2 years. I lost it all there completely. I wasn't able to recoup, and so I had to close the business. So the lesson there, not that I think I could have seen it, but timing, the sense of timing is crucial. You have to be able to identify the different trends, what's going on before you make that leap. Because what tend to happen to entrepreneurs, and I include myself in that group, is that we tend to be very optimistic. So we tend to upplay the benefits and downplay the risks. If not, you're not an entrepreneur, really. So at some point, you stop listening to anybody. You stop looking at the market and to see if the trends are right or not or wrong. I think that you should do that once you have invested. You have passed the point of return. When you pass that point, stop listening to everybody because you're not going to back out. But before you get to that point, you have to open your ears. So that, I think I have a lot to learn yet about that. And in the positive side is that I've been able to take risks. I was also, when I was younger too, I am 65 now, but when I was younger, I wasn't risk averse at all. I was risk seeker. I was seeking risk.
Looking
all
for
the
that.
time. Now I take it a little slower. So I love entrepreneurship.
And
I've learned from finance.
You're still running a company, right?
What's that?
You're still running a company right now.
Yes.
Well, can we talk about your current business?
Yes, I identified a niche that I think we're in the process of developing the companies, of course. Small businesses, when you think of the U.S., and by definition of small businesses a company that spends between 1.5 to, that the revenues of 1.5 to 1.6 million dollars a year to maybe 20 million a year. So that's a small business. So I realized after a little research that there were two things happening in that market. Number one, nobody's paying attention to that group, small businesses, and they account for over 90% of the businesses in the U.S. When you look at the big consulting firms, they don't pay attention to them. They don't have programs for small businesses. But the McKinseys of this world, the Arthur Andersons of this world, they tend to cater to big companies. So there is an opportunity there. But number two is how the consultant is executed. Many consulting firms, what they do is they look at your business and then they give you a booklet of recommendations for you to implement. And that works very well with a large company. But for a small business, that's not the case. Small businesses, they don't think of terms of they don't think in profit margins. They think of cash. They don't care if the profit margin is 20%. They will tell you, what is the cash? I don't see where the cash is. And then you see that small business owners are experts at what they do. If you do HVAC, you're an expert at that. But you know nothing about the business of business. They don't know how to read a P&L. They don't know how to read a balance sheet. They don't know what that is. They rely on a bookkeeper that doesn't necessarily know what he or she is doing either. So they tend to have a lot of inefficiencies and a lot of missed opportunities. And finally, most of the consulting tend to be very expensive for businesses because then you send a consultant for 48 or 40 hours a week to a client at $600 an hour. And the engagement, the consulting lasts between 6 to 8 weeks. So you do the math. They will be paying more than 10% of the total revenues for consulting for 8 weeks. So I'm not saying that it's not valuable to them, but I'm saying that it's very expensive. What I decided to do was that, number one, I recognize that a consultant doesn't have to be at the client's 40 or 48 hours per week. It's not necessary. And number two, that approach was a 20th century approach. In the 21st century, we could be doing this that we're doing at this moment. You are in California. I am in Washington, D.C. We're talking in real times, and we could be talking about your business or my business. And we could be looking at the numbers of our companies, and we could be identifying opportunities. So I decided to create a company called BizzMD, like Medical Doctor for Business, that we do consulting online. We assign a CEO, an expert CEO, to every business owner, and we go deep. We look at the books. We want to see the P&L. And if we have to teach the business owner how to understand a P&L, we do that. Basic things that we learn in business school and also through experience, they don't have that knowledge. So we offer a program for that. There are different programs, but the main one is because our clients get 3 hours per week with an expert CEO. It's always the same one for 12 consecutive weeks. So we dive in with our experience in different businesses and try to identify opportunities and efficiencies in the small business, that scale. So it makes sense for them. They pay a very small fraction of what they would pay if they hire a traditional company. And at the same time, we give them very experienced CEOs. All of the CEOs that we have on our roster, first of all, they speak multiple languages. Second, they've worked international in different companies. And third, also different industries. So the business owner gets the benefit of that experience. An experience that they wouldn't be able to afford if they would hire a CEO with those qualifications.
What industries do you cover?
Well, as business owners, they're very much into HVAC, roofing companies, trucking companies, construction companies. We have restaurant owners. We have clinics, we have law offices. So it doesn't really matter. The problems are always the same. And you know what the beauty of this is? You know who gives the solution? Who do you think gives the solution to every single problem? The business owner. They know they have an issue. They just don't know how to get to it. So what we do the first 2 weeks is identify that we do a diagnosis of the business. And then we would prescribe some solutions. And then we guide the business owner step by step to implement that. So we don't drop him after we identify and prescribe what the solution is. Number one, the solution we build together because we need commitment from the business owner. But also, we want to make sure that every decision and recommendation that we make translate into cash. If it doesn't translate into cash that we can measure, we haven't done our work.
Got it. And do you use or starting to use AI tools in your work?
Yeah, that's a very common question when business owners talk to us because it's everywhere, AI. And we say we can help you that, but first we have to identify where does it make sense for your business. So you don't get an AI application just to have an AI application.
For the sake of it, yeah.
We have to, let's first understand your business and see if part of, if there is an opportunity within being operations and sales and finance, if it makes sense. From the demand point of view, that marketing and sales, there are many, many different applications that we could implement right away. However, the more demand you could have, if you have underlying problems within your business, you're not making it better, you're making it worse. So let's get the house in place, fix it before we implement those tools. And additionally, we are getting a lot of baby boomers that are trying to sell their business. Maybe their kids didn't want to be part of the business. They didn't want to be roofers, or they didn't want to be in HVAC or whatever, and they want to sell. Now, when they're trying to sell this business, coming from the investment side as well, an investment firm would look at the potential company to buy with a very different lens from any other individuals. So the company has to be well packaged for it to be attractive for an investment firm. And the difference in how much money you would get for your business is huge. So we also help business owners sell their companies because by the time they start talking to private investment, the business is streamlined and in perfect condition for any of those companies to analyze.
Excellent. And with your background in marketing, how do you market your own company, your own business?
Okay, I see BizzMD as an internet company. And so we have to have a very strong digital footprint. So we invest in that a lot, in a lot of advertising in digital media. Also, but that's one tool. But we cannot rely only on that. And I don't think that any company like mine could afford to depend only on digital media. We also believe in PR, being part of different chambers of commerce, making alliances with different businesses. We make alliances with law offices or accounting firms. They themselves provide service to small business owners. So basically, we could benefit from that synergy. So we build alliances with them to generate a win-win for everybody. So we do that a lot.
That's great. Well, good luck to your business. And maybe it's a good segue to kind of wrap up our session. And a question I want to ask you, what advice would you give to Thunderbird students who are thinking about entrepreneurship journey, entrepreneurial journey in their future?
Well, my advice would be do it fast, do it now. In my time, it was more difficult than it is today to acquire some tools and to learn. I am a big believer of education, but education doesn't have to be a formal, program that you enroll into. There are a zillion tools out there that you can learn on your own. So if you have an idea, go for it. Don't think about it too much. just go for it. If you want to follow what I do, I have to, have my concept in my head and I have to have a name for it. If I don't have a name, the first thing I do is I have this name, the brand name, I have to create it. And also after that, I create a logo. Once I have that, I feel I have something tangible. It's not just an idea floating in my head. And then I take it from there. But I do it fast, do it now. Don't wait.
Excellent.
Because there will never be a perfect time for it. Never. You don't know. If you knew, great, but nobody knows. So you don't know when the right time is. So do it now. If you're graduating from Thunderbird this year and you have an idea, do it. Don't wait.
Thank you. What advice would you give to self?
I would have. I don't think you're gonna like this answer. I would have, invested less time in schooling, formal schooling, because I got my 5-year undergrad degree. Then I went for a first master's. Then I went for a second master's. And later on, I did everything but thesis for a PhD in political science. So fewer years of formal schooling that I could have invested in developing my own business. So get the tools. And if you need, put tools in your toolbox. But don't try to anticipate every single tool you need. You start doing the job, and then as the need arises, you will look for that tool. So I would have said to myself, the Thunderbird, you don't have to go to it for a PhD, especially when you're going to do it in political science. And I put a lot of effort into it. It didn't make any sense. Not that I was doing that PhD for professional development. No, it was for knowledge. It was even more stupid. If it was for knowledge, I didn't have to go to any school and enroll in any program to get that knowledge. Right. That knowledge that was out there. So I would have said that to myself.
Excellent. Thank you. And what's your next travel destination?
Well, I'll be here in DC for a couple of months, and from here I have to go to Spain because there are a couple of people in Spain that are interested in the model I am developing, and then that they want to be part of this locally in Spain, so they can focus their marketing efforts locally in Spain. So I should be there the first week in September.
Well, Acquiles, thank you so much for sharing your journey. Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Well, same here, Alex. I appreciate your time. And T-Birds, go T-Birds. T-Bird Tuesdays and T-Bird 7 days a week. And it's a great school. I highly recommend it. By the way, do you know that there is a campus here in DC?
Yes, I heard about that.
Yes.
I haven't been to it yet, but yes.
Yes.
That's great.
So it's a great school. Don't hesitate. It's worth the effort.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.